Catching up on my More Than Meets the Eye has gotten me in the mood to talk about a particular toy that I described as one of the best of the last decade, and one that I went over briefly, literally, in a Rush review ages ago. But I want to talk about it in a little bit more detail, and I want to give it a more in-depth look. And for a little bit of variety, we're changing up which one I'm discussing. Behold, Cyclonus. This is originally from the Universe molds, the Universe 2.0, I should say. But this is the Battle in Space version, released around the time of Reveal the Shield, where it was 2-packed in with a Rodimus as well as a little Matrix that neither one of them could hold, so hooray! But the toy itself generally remains the same, so it's worth talking about. As you can see, it's the same mold, however now, rather than the more toy-accurate color scheme of the original figure, we've gone show-accurate. It's not unlike the Henkei in that regard, but no chrome, which is actually a direction I much prefer. You see 2 different shades of purple on him. You get this really pale purple and a lavender color. The two blend pretty well together, so it does create this very, very solid look with little variance between the different sections, and that's really good. Creates this nice solid looking vehicle, very uniform and very cartoon accurate. Do really like this. For other detailing, you do have a little bit of silver painted here and there. That kind of gives you this look of the original horns on the first Cyclonus toy, but they've been molded into little guns, which I kind of appreciate. A little bit on the nose cone as well. Most of the paint is devoted to making certain parts that lavender color, so not a whole lot of added paint detail, at least not in this mode. You do get the red windshield, which is also screen accurate. If we had just a tiny little Galvatron riding inside, this would be perfect. Ultra Magnus is mine. Focus. Focus. There we go. So, the vehicle itself does have that nice sleek look you want out of your Cyclonus. Not a whole lot of underkibble going on. Far less than the original toy. If you ever see the original toy, it looks like super sleek and smooth on the top, and then there's just these big robot legs hanging down right under here because they didn't know what to do with them now. They didn't know what to do with them then. Now they did figure something out, and I actually really like the engineering trick. We'll get to that in transformation. For now, you really don't have many features in here. You got landing gear that folds down, so he at least has that. We'll go ahead and fold those up and give his silhouette a little bit of a cleaner look. I still really like the look of this toy overall. It doesn't mean it's perfect. Just because I said it was one of the best of the last decade doesn't mean it's flawless, because no toy is absolutely perfect. And like, for instance, on the front, I don't like that little change in the thickness of the nose cone. Because of the way they decided that this transformed, you have this little gap in here where I would have preferred like a much smoother, actual shape. And then toward the back, this is the only part where I can really give it a little bit of a hassle, because the only parts that really connect are here and here, which gives some of the parts, especially on the underside, a little bit of a rickety feel. There's a decided lack of things tabbing together and holding in place. So everything kind of feels a little bit iffy here. And you also, of course, have this big gap, as well as a few other gaps through here. And you could go, well, futuristic space vehicle, not a big deal. But they also didn't have those in the show or the original toy, so I don't know, like, something tells me that if it were designed today, there'd be a couple little panels that flipped out and connected together to fix both problems. But this is back before they started using thin panels to fix everything with a toy. Feature-wise, the only other thing you can really do is attach his Target Master partner, Nightstick, which was the cool thing about that Universe 2 figure, giving it a little bit of variety, as well as bringing back the Masters before Titan's return made it the whole thing for the whole line. It does form a pretty bulky weapon for his vehicle mode, but hey, at least you can do it. And that's one of those little features that G1 toys were known for, so why not? Let's get this guy into robot mode and we'll see just how good he actually came out. So, unpegging all of this, and now unpegging the wings. Everything on the everything like that forms the arms actually does kind of clip together. It's getting onto the main body where things don't quite click as well as they should. You can swing these down to get them out of the way. Arms extend out and go ahead and flip the wrists out. Pull out, flip, flip. I said flip. I said flip. Not the day to cut my fingernails. Now, to the legs, and I love this. Two halves coming down to form a solid whole. Now, this is something a little bit akin to Cybertron Red Alert's little leg trick, where the two halves come together to create the entire leg, but I think it's done way better here. Aside from the fact that the knees actually work without modification, you also have a very clean leg that really doesn't resemble the vehicle at all. That's the type of transformation I really enjoy. All right, so with that out of the way, we can swing these arms down into position. Get those ready. The wings are going to fold up behind his big shoulders like so. And hook on there. And from here, we're going to open up his back. We've already pushed the nose cone all the way in. One fold, another fold. Whole thing clips up. Rotate that around and then bring the torso together like so. And that is your Cyclonus. I still really love that transformation. That's really intuitive, really cleverly thought out. Boom. And now we take a look at him in his full glorious robot mode, and he is looking exceptional. The big thing about the original toy that could have thrown you off was the gray that was mixed into the robot mode's components, especially in the chest. Here, solid purple. You want cartoon accurate? This is cartoon accurate. Well, it's cartoon colors. You nitpick the coloring all day if you want accurate, but everything I want out of a Cyclonus is still here. We take a look at the head. Now, IDW fans, you're going to be used to a very different head. He doesn't have the little skeletal skull face thing going on, and his horns are the right color for the cartoon, not the original, not the comic book or the toy. I still really like how this bunny-eared guy looks. And now that they are like a solid piece, now that they aren't gray, they blend into the helmet a lot more and they look like one solid component. Much, much preferred. And everything else still works out quite nicely on him. Proportionally, this guy is exceptional. He's got the big shoulders giving him this tall, powerful appearance, and everything is nicely proportioned. For someone who's supposed to be like a space-age futuristic seeker-type Decepticon, he does have a lot of sleekness to him, but he's got powerful elements where it counts. He gets a very nice balance. The overall look with the purple, I still love. We can see a lot of those little variants. You still have those in the knees as well as a little bit in the feet. And you also have the forearms, which are completely violet. A little bit up here to bring the color up higher. Everything's balanced pretty well, I feel. And again, the colors are similar enough to where he still looks, at close inspection, like when you stare at him long enough, you realize those variants. He still has enough interesting things going on to really make him stand out as a figure, but still has enough of a consistent coloring to him to pass for cartoon accurate. The only real breakups in here being the red and the orange in his midsection, which is perfectly fine by me. The only other thing breaking up is going to be there on the chest, where the coloring on that Decepticon emblem has changed this entire review because it's a thermal active sticker and the lighting kind of messes with it. Green earlier, orange now. Let's see if we give it a rub. Back to green. It's the oldest gimmick in the Transformer book, but it still works. Well, at least when it actually wants to turn black and actually disguise what faction he is. Well, you can tell this is not a nice looking guy. Well, if you ask Tailgate's a nice looking guy, but he definitely has that Decepticon appearance. We're going to bring back Nightstick here, and we're going to get him mounted in the right arm because it's the only arm we can mount him on. Only hand we can mount him on anyway, because only one has a peg hole. This is bizarre. I'm not sure why they decided to do that. I mean, I don't see the harm in both sides having the peg hole to hold the weapon. If only so he could hold another weapon if he wanted, or if you want him to left hand, whatever. It seems like an odd selection, but hey, he can hold his target master, so that's pretty much all that's required. But they went one step further. If I flip his fist in, you can also take advantage of this little post on the back where we can connect him straight into the arm. This is how target masters operated in the Headmaster cartoon in Japan, where Cyclonus was not a target master. I'm not sure how that one works either, but hey, you can do it, and it's a nice little feature to include for the Japanese Transformer fans, or the fans of Japanese Transformer media. So, that out of the way, just before we get into the articulation, let's just go ahead and get Nightstick here into his correct mode. So we'll flip all the underside up. That all becomes his legs, and then the barrel just kind of flips down. And just like that, little tiny guy. Again, we are going more show accurate rather than toy accurate of the original. I believe in the show, his face was predominantly red, so the gold is a little hit of color he didn't have before. Also, he probably wasn't this dusty in the show. You can tell I pick up Cyclonus a lot more than I pick up his target master. But hey, for a little robot dude with silver hammer pants, this works out pretty well. Articulation-wise, he's pretty stiff. He can move his hips up and down like that, and his arms are, your lateral motion only. So, whatever. I wish he did a little bit more, honestly, but hey, he's more of an accessory in this style of set, so he's more there just to complement Cyclonus. So let's complement Cyclonus some more by looking at articulation. Head turns around, full 360, and he has light piping correctly done as a separate piece, and it's bright enough to where it's actually going to reveal some color, even with dim light behind you. Shoulders rotate forward as well as hinge outward, so you get universal motion. A little bit restricted to the out, but not too terrible. Full rotation in the bicep, full 90-degree at the elbow. Nothing in the wrist, unfortunately. Nothing in the waist, unfortunately. Ball joints work pretty well. Hips, all there. Thighs swivel all the way around. Knees work all the way around. You have a natural slant to the foot rather than an ankle rocker, but you do have hinges on both the heel and the toe, so you also have some level of posability and stability out of the feet. So while the articulation isn't quite up to modern standards, he is still no slouch. He can still pose pretty well, and pretty much as well as you would expect out of a Cyclonus figure. I'll quickly get this guy back into his gun mode and flip over the parts that I said were on the underside, which are clearly on the upper side. Boom, boom, boom. He's eternally a righty. Sorry, left-handers. He doesn't wield that way. That, my friends, that is Cyclonus from the Battle in Space 2-pack. This is still an exceptional figure. Absolutely great representation of the original Cyclonus, whether it's toy or cartoon. The features on him with the Target Master, those were really cool to see one back, and to see it fully realized right down to the Headmaster mounting method. The vehicle mode looks great aside from some gaps. The robot mode is fantastic. Look at this. I didn't even talk about this. Look how clean it is. Look, that is beautiful. Like you'd be hard pressed for someone to actually tell you that could transform into something. That's exceptionally nice. So yeah, my faults with him are very, very minor. This was still a fantastic toy for his era, and one of the ones that I think still holds up really, really well today. That said, I wouldn't mind an update, because we have a very different Cyclonus, and I do need one that matches up a little bit better. But one day,